Lovely to have both of you here. Welcome to the Everyday Change Not Quite a podcast. It's brilliant to have Kate and Kelly, who are both change leaders, leading massive organisational changes in a time where the world is facing into lots of mess and upheaval. So it's wonderful to have you with us. Today we're going to focus sort of on like the darker side of change. So we're going to explore some of the things about how it feels to lead change where the outcomes aren't necessarily great for everybody, where transitional teams or sort of like part-time teams are involved, and how we can help our colleagues and the people that we work with and people that we work for navigate and negotiate their way through those changes. So a bit of a heavy subject in some cases, but I suppose with the combination of the amount of swearing and our free accents, it should probably feel a slightly different take on how sort of like dark it could be. So like if we think about changes, lots of the rhetoric is around like positive change experiences, how change is good for everybody, how change is the constant and the new thing. But realistically, we know from the work that we do that lots of changes often have rough outcomes or rough experiences for lots of the people that go through it. Based on like your experiences and where you are, like what does that look like and what does it feel like to be the people that have to lead and choreograph that work?
I suppose from my viewpoint, when you start into the work and start scoping out what actually the reality of the change journey is going to look like for those people, it is trying to remember that they are human beings in it. And I think we can, and organisations can, very quickly start change impact assessments and grids and spreadsheets, and people become rag statuses and red, yellow, amber, and all of the different colours. But actually, it's really important of how that's going to look and feel. I think one of the things that I know we do well is that we're really honest and open with people. So there's this quite hidden bit of, oh no, you can't tell them anything yet because we're not sure what's going to happen. Or you can't tell them that because then they'll realise that there's actually going to be a change in what they do or how they operate. And always open, honest, upfront is the best way to help anyone get through the change. As in the change journey, not the change. I'm not that expert. But I think
Clarification, we're not that good.
We're not that good. Could probably try. So yeah, open and honest. And actually that can be really difficult. And as you said, like the dark side of change, because people will plot bits together in the mind. Well, if I'm not going to do that bit in future, but that's 40% of my job, what happens to that 40% of my role? And it instantly starts conversations. And when we talk about like that transition into how the change journey goes, and that it's going to be really rough until you come out of the end of it. And even when you're technically out of the end of it, it can be rougher for a longer time. I think how you help people navigate that transition is really key. Whether that's technically, behavioural, culture, where they fit, their teams. But if you lie and don't tell them, but that, like, I've been in conversations. We can't tell them that yet.
Yeah.
How do you? But we can't tell them that yet. But could you pull together a graph for me on how they're going to adopt the change? And I was like, well, no, because you haven't told them what's happening. So how can we gauge that? So yeah, just really open and honest conversations. And it can get a little bit difficult and awkward. But you need to work through that with people. If you do the wall of silence, people will make their own narrative.
I think as well, if you try do it nearer the end and you surprise people, like a surprise attack of what's coming, then people don't have time to absorb the change or think about what that means, or they're not even there to potentially help you come up with solutions during that transition. Whereas if you give people time to say, right, this is what's changing, this is what we think it's going to look like, but we might have a period in the middle where you've got to work in both ways, or we're not at an end state. How does that work? What does that look like in your team? If you surprise attack them near the end and go, well, you've just got to do it, the outcomes are worse, not only for them as a team, because they don't know how to respond. And as humans, we all go through change all the time. But when something happens quick that you're not expecting, your reaction is worse, or it's more difficult to absorb that, sit back, look at it, and then move on. And all the emotions are short and sharp, and people will shut down. Whereas if you can even start leading with the questions, even though you don't know the answers, they might start formulating some of the solutions on how they can work around it before you've got there. And then when you do have the questions and the answers and say, this is what we think, they're more prepared.
Yeah, and I think like, so a lot of that sort of like lands into like the neuroscience space, doesn't it? In terms of how we process change, it's about threat and reward. And like reward isn't like delicious, like trophies and treats. It's like connection and relationships and information. And if we don't do that work, the surprise attack just goes straight into a threat. And all of a sudden we're like, oh shit, like this thing is coming down, the light at the end of the tunnel is a train. Like it's,
exactly.
we take away those other options. I think, I like what you said, Kate, about in terms of like what happens after.
Yeah.
And like, we loads of people, loads of organising going, we're doing the change is done, bada, balloon arch, cakes, posters, and then all of a sudden it goes to hell in a handbasket, because actually like the change doesn't end there. Like the work still has to be done, whether that is because your world has changed or because you have lost people or lost relationships or lost support. And I think I see a lot of that in my world, because we are one of those temporary change teams that comes up, leads to the point of the balloon arch, and then we leave.
Yeah.
But then you leave an organisation without that capability. Like what advice would you have if you're working with, I would say like temporary teams, contractors, consultants, in terms of how do you work with them well enough so when they go, you don't sit at your desk and go, oh, fuck.
I think we're experiencing quite a bit of that at the minute where we are, but for me, it's so if your team's got smaller, you've had extra resourcing during the change, and now they're gone, people have moved, people have left the business. It's actually assessing that knowledge gap. So just like you do at the start of where do we need to get people to, what knowledge and skills and behaviours do they need to get through this change, instead of just going, oh, we've closed down Balloon Arch. Love a balloon arch, by the way, you know that.
Here for balloons.
Always here for the balloons. Is, okay, well, we're done, but who's left behind? Yeah. So I had a conversation with my change delivery learning lead this week about, right, we need to go again. And it was like, well, we've landed all of that learning. They know, I'm like, that team's changed, that's moved, those contractors are left, we've finished that cut over. Those two people don't even work there anymore. We need to help them navigate not just the button pushing, but how the upskilling in the systems, how the new process works, that behavior and culture, because we change the hierarchy in the organization, how decisions are made. So it's kind of like a post-change operation plan. Yeah. In honesty, it's like a change recovery plan. Like, how do I get there? Because you will have a lot of people that have gone through it, embraced it, up there on your adoption survey, brilliant. 40% of the people, not saying they don't know how to push the new buttons or do the new role, they never came with you. So they're just hanging and haven't done the change journey. So it's, well, how do you do that with limited people left? And it's that part of, I think, leading the change, knowing you're not going to be there. And that's why, to my earlier point, I think it's really key to have people involved from the teams, not program, not project, from the teams, for the end state of, when you lead and change, you can be really passionate, but you can't be possessive of it. It's not yours. You're not going, but you can become all consuming, and because you know what you're landing inside out, well, that's great, but we can't take that knowledge away with us either. So it's the plans put in place to make sure the legacy lives on as such. And, we talk about transition into BAU. Well, what does business as usual look like?
Yeah, what even is it anymore? When we've done all of these things, what is left?
I mean, I think one of the things we've done quite well as on the project we've been working on at the moment is we've had business readiness sessions with the business on a regular basis, whether it be weekly, fortnightly or monthly, or if that's changed based on at the part of the project they're on. But just because that part of the project's gone live, those sessions haven't ended. So that gives them somewhere where the programme are coming and feeding in. The readiness activities are theirs. It says where there's some responsibility, we can still assist then in getting answers, but it's a bit of a more low-key knowledge transfer to make them feel more confident about what's coming. But then when things do go pear-shaped, they've got an outlet to say X, Y, and Z, or, yeah, we're happy, we're stable with the basics, we're now ready to look at how we can enhance that or make it more efficient, or something's happened, we've not seen that before. And he's like, oh yeah, we've not considered that. We need to go back and look at that for you and come with you on that. But get to a point where you can start asking them more questions for the answers rather than the other way around, so that then they don't, it's a bit of a trick that they don't realise you're doing that, but you're kind of preparing them to take
Just
over.
told everyone now, Kelly.
I get that. Yeah,
That's fine. Cut that bit. Cut the secret.
But you kind of, you're educating them without them realising, because you're giving them that forum to do it, and you bring that back, but you're also building the trust at the same time, so they know that you're on their side, wanting them to take over and succeed. So that's worked quite well. Different groups, different people, different levels. It's not all senior leaders who are going to be maybe not so much the doers and won't be doing the button pressing. It's a mixture of people. So you can look at it from different angles and perspectives to start pushing it over, and then stepping back and only helping when you need to.
Yeah, it's like I call it casual change, where you create enough of an infrastructure so it feels dead normal to be asked for your opinion, or to be invited into a room, or to be taught about something new, rather than like, oh, this special magic event is going to happen, come and be special and magic, where it's just like, every Tuesday, see you on Tuesday, see you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Not that see you next Tuesday. Wait, wasn't going there. But it's the ability to like really build it into what you're doing, to like normalise it. And I think that's where, there's a lovely space in loads of organisations to build those networks and build those communities. And like, and yours is like massive.
Yeah.
Like you've got a delicious change community that is both working through the change, building the capability, exploring the work. Like where did that spark from, and how did it scale?
So back in the day when we started 3 years ago.
In the olden days.
3 years ago, feels like a long time ago. Me and Bev were just two of us and 140,000 colleagues, and we thought, right, how are we going to do this then? And I'd done something similar and in learning space, and there's many terms available: change champion, change agent, whatever. So we decided to set up Change Champion Network, and we were really passionate about. We got the leadership bought in to nominate, so like senior leadership, senior directors and above, but I was really descriptive of who you give me. So I don't want Susie, who always has her hand up for everything, that's overworked by 40 hours a week anyway, but is doing it for the stretch. Pick me, who has no capacity to help anyone. And as Kelly said, we end up with a very different scale, from junior colleagues all the way up to senior directors themselves. And then we ensured that we had them across every single function. And then when we went out to retail, we have one in every store. Now it's very different sometimes with hours and working terms, but we made conscious decision that we needed a network that we could engage. So we did some branding and all of the rest of it.
Balloon arch.
Love balloon arch. But we had some key principles that we never faltered on. So they will always know in advance of the changes landing. We 100% use them for pilots, feedback. So even when we were pulling the change comms together, where, you're landing a ream of stuff, we would literally go out cold on a Teams channel and say, we are thinking about this. What about, and the feedback we used to get was, that doesn't land like that. We don't actually get that.
We don't use that language. That makes no sense.
Or
what's that?
Even the channels the official communication channels the business had set up, they're like, no one reads that.
Who are you?
Do that. And then regular check-ins, depending on the peak of activity, but also then cross-functional, because the level of change that we were landing, and still are, was everything. So it was payroll to swiping in and out of the shops, to supply chain, to depots, to finance, to commercial. And we then used our change network to make sure that the change champions in finance didn't just know about the finance changes, if they needed to know something that was coming from tech or whatever. So it was like a real collaborative space, and absolutely didn't shy away from the feedback, because you're, well, there's many a terminology I'll go with. You're a disruptor, who everyone's like, oh, don't make them a change champion. They don't
Definitely
embrace
do.
change. I'm like,
We'll
absolutely.
take 'em.
Yeah.
From the back, up front, and I want
Yeah.
you to tell me exactly what you think. And then we included them in business readiness sessions, and it was a bit of a, sounds very patriotic, it was a voice of the people.
Yeah.
You know, they understood, and it's hard work to keep them all together, and then where you've got depots and stores and all sorts, but I feel we did a really good job. We've got some really good feedback from it, and like it's nice, you can see people proudly wearing their change champion lanyards and stuff. Like they were part of hypercare,
UAT testing.
yeah,
Quite
all
a few
sorts.
things. And
Amazing.
we tried to make sure there was a little bit of a mixture of can, can'ts, will, won'ts. Because
I can't even say that.
I can
It would
imagine.
definitely sound.
I was going to say, I can
yeah,
imagine where that would go quickly.
Yeah.
and the reason being is all those different statuses, the people accept or work through a change differently. But if you can get them on side to what's happening and get them to absorb it, they're the best people to spread the message amongst their teams and share that, because not everyone is going to be happy and jolly about a change that's coming. There will be people that have been told that change is happening loads and loads of times, and we're going to do it in this way, and we're going to make sure that it's great and you'll be looked after. And then they get the surprise attack, it doesn't happen, and it falls flat on its face, and they're the ones left picking it up. So when the next one comes along, they're the ones that'll roll their eyes and go, oh God, here we go again.
Yeah.
But if you then give them that positive change and the part of that, and they actually trust the process and the people, then they're your biggest advocate to push that out. To say, actually, we are going somewhere this time. We've been listened to. We have a voice. We're part of it. We understand it. We had them helping us design the training, so that it was understood from the perspective of the colleagues who'd be receiving it, rather than just someone who does this for a living or is who's come in as a contractor as a specialist expert who can reel off all that technology and all that terminology without even thinking about it to someone who's seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's like being able to have that contrast has helped a lot, because then it's like, actually, yeah, that makes sense to me.
But it's the total, like, for the people, with the people, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like change communities are massive, but it always reminds me of that like analogy, like when you become a parent and everyone says like it takes a village to raise a child, the African proverb, and it actually takes a different sort of village to like change an organisation. And I think like, obviously I understand the scale of what you're doing, but it made me laugh when at the same time you were like, and we're changing this and this and this, and both of us just went, I forgot it was all that. Like, and the reality of what you've had to go through is literally ginormous. Like the change you're in is like baby out the bathwater, in it. Like there's been no like let's tweak this and change this. It's like a full on root and branches, and to be able to do that and scale a network that what you have had with the tentacles it's created of real life people, real life challenges, like is now short than brilliant. And obviously that's why you're an award winner, and I understand that. I'm not at all bitter.
Why, thank you very much.
But I think like if this story is like, it's a unique story to have something like this. And there'll be organisations out there that are thinking, well, there'll be single change managers actually. They'll be going, quite fancy one of them.
Yeah.
Like what would like single moments from each of you, what would be for somebody who sat there and listened to this or read something that like, we've shared around like building change communities, what single bit of action would you say, do this first or try this first? Where would you land for somebody?
You go first.
I was going to say the same to you.
I was going to do you want me to sing a song whilst you have an interlude?
Tell the truth.
Yeah. Open and honest.
That's my one piece of advice.
Mine too. If you don't know the answer, say it. If you're going to go look for the answer, come back to somebody. Don't leave them hanging.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing.
I think
for
it's
me.
also at all levels. So like leading the change team and this, when I say tell the truth, I mean not just to the change community change champions. I mean to the executive leaders. I mean to the project leads. I mean you're not always going to want to hear it, you're not always going to take my advice on board, but we need to have that open and honest conversation of, so there's always that like pivotal moment when you're coming out of scoping and you sit in a meeting and you think, that's not actually what that team do. This is how they do that. And no one has admitted that. So how are we now? And then they go, and can you build a change plan for that? I'm like, well, no, because that's not what they do today.
Well, it's Emperor's New Clothes, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think that would be tell the truth, but again, with the change community and the network, tell the truth, because if you say to them, oh, you're all here because you're brilliant and you're a champion of change and you've been chosen, no, you are here because we need you.
Yeah.
We need you, and we want you to tell us everything good, bad, and different. And when they tell you some of the bad stuff, you still have to tell the truth back. So let's not take a negative piece of feedback, lie about it, say, oh, well, it's only because we've done this and that. No.
It's
when
real.
we talk about the good, bad, and different, bits of change, not all change is good.
No.
But change can be good in how it's delivered, but you can't shy away from, well, this doesn't work like this and this actually takes me 3 times longer, Kate. Yeah, it's going to. And I can't tell you when you will get back to what it was 6 months ago, but I can tell you it's part of this and this is the bigger story, and I need to help you adapt to that. So yeah, that's.
It makes me.
I'll get down off my soapbox now.
It makes me chuckle because
Get her a ladder.
I know. Well,
it makes me chuckle because Kate always says I ask too many questions, and I do. I ask a lot.
that's why I heard.
Of the experts, who were making the designs, the solutions, and also of the teams, and then I end up going, Kate,
Yeah.
this, and she went, put that into plain English. So then it's that ability to take that feedback and being prepared to take it to the program team or the project leads and the people who are making the decisions on whether the project goes live on that date, and then saying, this is the impact that this has, because we've gone out and tried to understand it and bring it back. And they're like, oh, didn't realise that. Like, yeah. She's like, stop asking questions. But
Every now and again. Well, we've got a bit on, Kelly.
Yeah.
Got a bit on.
But having that ability with the people who are undertaking the change and having the trust to be able to take that back, and whether it impacts a timescale or something else, having that trust between both parts of the project helps, because it helps your change community and the people it's happening to know that you're taking it seriously and you're understanding, and you can translate that, but then you can also make it strategic for the people who need to make those decisions. So you're kind of acting as that middle translator to be able to get that information to the right people when they all need it.
So we're here for real truths, not convenient truths. That's that's our strapline for today.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, literally on the couch. It's been
I know.
wonderful
I feel
to have
very
you.
light this morning about it.
And now we cut to adverts.
Yes.